Okay, hello everybody. We are live on the air. Thanks so much for joining us. Take your time to wrap up your weekend here on Roll and Move Reviews. I'm using a very soothing voice because I know it's been a very stressful week for everybody. So I just want everybody to take their time. I want everybody to relax, grab a beverage, maybe a snack, and we're just going to sit back, relax, forget all our problems, talk about some great board games. My name is Kirk. I'm your host. And joining me as always, once again, is our good friend from Board Game Blender. It's Asdruval the Retro Gamer.
Hello out there, folks. I cannot use that same soothing voice as you, so
That's right.
we got you on the air.
Yeah. Well, it has been a hectic week, but we're going to have some fun tonight. Continue our top 10, our top 50 countdown. 10 more games from each of us. We're going to be going down from our 50. Our 40 to our 31. This is our second episode. So when you finish watching us tonight, if you want to go back, you didn't catch our top 50, go back and watch that video. And we'll be continue this down, 20 games apiece, 10 for each of us, until we hit number 1. So Asdruval, before we get started, how's everything going for you? How's your week been?
Just like you said, it was a hectic week, but I finally got the Arkham Horror card game, and that's all I played all week.
Oh, awesome!
Is that game? I went through it comes with 3 scenarios, so I finished all 3 of those, and they're supposed to come out with another set of stories here fairly quick. So I finished them with like the 2 main characters that they give you, and then they give you 3 more characters that you build your own deck with. So I'm running through the game again with those characters. But amazing game, amazing.
You're playing it solo?
Yeah, I'm playing it solo.
Awesome.
And some people do recommend that you just play it solo. But the box says 1 to 2 players. You can get another core set to make it 4 players, 3 or 4 players. But I think I'm enjoying it solo.
Yeah, I know. Well, what I've heard is a lot of comparisons to the Lord of the Rings game, and I know that one works really well solo. So I hear everybody talking about that coming out this week. So I know that's going to be the hot game for a while.
Right. So yeah, that's been besides work and family, that's the only thing that I've been playing this whole week is that. And I am a little bit muffled or a little upset because I'm missing 1 card in the set. The card just vanished.
And you had it and it was gone, or it was missing from the beginning?
It was missing from the beginning. I opened it up. I opened up the cards and was setting everything up. Getting the different scenario cards done and getting the different starter decks, because they give you a recommendation on what you should start with. So I'm looking through all the cards and I'm missing 1 stinking card, and I know that I didn't drop it anywhere because I just opened the package. So Fantasy Flight hasn't gotten back to me yet, and hopefully I can get that 1 extra card or that 1.
Yeah, they'll probably take care of you. Yeah, that could ruin a game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get started, we'll start off with number 40 here. But just in case we got some viewers who haven't been with us yet so far, why don't you tell us a little bit about your new project with Restoration Games?
Okay, Restoration Games is Justin Jacobson and Rob Davio started a new company. They're taking games from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, mass market games, the stuff that you could buy like at Walmart or Toys R Us, and they're re-releasing them, revamping them, giving them a couple added new rules, some new graphics, just kind of modernize them for today's time and re-releasing them. So we're still waiting on our starting lineup here, which hopefully will be out soon. And if you haven't gone already to restorationgames.com, vote for your favorite game, and also subscribe to the newsletter for all the updated information.
Okay, and there is a link in the description for the Restoration Games website, so be sure to check that out. And I've been thinking about a lot that was on the website, browsing around, and I just think about all the gamers and non-gamers I know who talk about these games they played when they were a kid and have such great memories of them. And, now they have kids and they want to, introduce their children to those same games they got to play. So it's good work you guys are doing, and I'm excited to see what you guys come out with first. So that first lineup of games is probably going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with our next set of games here. And I believe you started last time, so I'll lead off tonight.
Okay.
And my number 40 game, this is a 2-player game. And one of the themes we're going to see on my list is that I don't get to play a lot of the 2-player games as much as I want to. A lot of games are on my list just because the dynamics and the number of players I have in my regular group have changed. There was a time a while ago where we didn't have a lot of dependable players, so we got to play bring a lot of 2-player games to the table. But that's kind of changed. So a lot of these games, including my number 40, we don't get to play that much. But also because it's a brain burner, and the game is Confusion. It's a 2-player game that's basically reverse Stratego, where I have my piece on the board, you have yours, but they're facing each other. I can't see mine, and I'm looking at yours. So what you do is, I'll move my piece maybe 2 steps ahead, because each piece has its movement printed on it. So maybe I'll move it 2 spaces ahead, and you'll tell me either I can or can't do that. So I have a dry erase board. So for that piece, I'll go through and I'll cross off. If you say, yeah, you can move 2 spaces. For that piece, that piece, I cross off all the pieces that can't move 2 spaces. And I got to go through every piece and eliminate and figure out what I can do with them. And it's basically capture the flag game. You have a briefcase or some kind of information in the middle of the board. You have to get to the other side. So it's a ton of fun. But like I said, we don't play it too often because it's going to be some work when you have to when you sit down to play it. So a lot of fun, even despite the fact of how stressful it can be. That's my number 40, Confusion.
Is that I take it that's an older game then, right?
It's probably at least 5-10 years old. It's definitely not something new.
Wow, who puts that out?
I'm pretty sure it's Stronghold.
And it's called
And
Confusion?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's still in print, but it's like I said, if you want a real thinker 2-player game, it's definitely worth checking out.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of it or seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really into, I like games with some kind of theme to it, and that sound like it's like themeless, just kind of abstract.
Oh, I'm the same, and I think this might be, if not the only, one of the very few abstract games on my list. I'm a big theme guy too, but this one just a whole lot of fun.
Okay. All right. So my number 40 is a game that they claim were the first people to do it. It's Mystic Vale. It's the card crafting game where you actually, it's a deck builder, but as you're playing through the game, you're actually building your own card and putting it in this in a clear sleeve. So there's room for 3 different things that your card can do, and you're building it as you're playing along. So throughout the game, it makes that one card just stronger as the game goes on. And like I said, they're not the first people to do this. If I can recall, about what year? This is 2016. So we're like about 9 or 10 years ago. Wizards of the Coast came out with a similar game. It was called Hecatomb. So, and that game just kind of fell flat. So they definitely are not the first people that do that, as they claim to be. But yeah, that's my number 40, Mystic Vale. One other thing, I don't really like the theme to the game. The theme just kind of really doesn't make sense to me. But just that new mechanic, they did it a little bit better than Wizards of the Coast did. Just that new mechanic kind of excited me. So that's my number 40, Mystic Vale.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's one I definitely want to check out. It looks really interesting to me. I was out last night and I saw it on a table, and I was like, oh, it's only $12. I'm like, wow, that's a great deal. But I flipped it over. It was just the expansion. They didn't have the base game, so I was like, I'll have to pick it up some other time.
Right.
Very cool though. All right, my number 39 is what is considered to be a Grail game. It's really hard to find, and it is one that I've been lucky enough to play, and that is Star Wars Queen's Gambit. This is one that, like I said, it's been out of print for a long time. It's based on Star Wars Phantom Menace, and it really does a great job of replicating the third act of that movie. You have everything that you saw in the film going on at the same time. You have the space battle. You have the Gungans fighting the droids. You have the Queen trying to take back the palace and this Jedi lightsaber fight. So a lot of stuff going on. And it's based on the commands and colors system, where based on it, where you have different sets of cards that you decide where you're going to play them to take actions for your turn. So really fun game. Like I said, I got to play it. I was lucky enough. A friend of mine, a former coworker, used to bring it into work for us to play, and he actually let me borrow his copy to review. And something I probably wouldn't have done if the situation was reversed, because that game's worth a lot of money. But it's a whole lot of fun. It actually takes Phantom Menace and brings something good out of it, because as horrible as that movie was, at least we got a really great game with it. A lot of fun. Like I said, it really captures that theme well, and just one that I haven't got to play too often, obviously, because I only know one person who has it, and we don't get together that often. But it is a really fun game.
Yeah, this just goes to show you that at least from what I have seen in the past, every game that goes on clearance is the games that are worth the most money. I'm not kidding you, because I saw that game when it first came out. It went on clearance, and I never picked it up. And then it was out of print, and then it just skyrocketed up in price. It's it's just really weird thing, you know. So if you ever see anything go on clearance, you can go pick it up.
Well, I think a lot of those mass market toy companies, when they make it, and you'd be the expert on this, you know more than I do, but it seems like when they have a hit on their hands, like a gamer hit, they don't realize it. You know, they make these dinky little kids games. They make something that's really solid. They don't even know what they have.
Yeah, that's right. But that's in the past. It's the same thing. I mean, Dark Tower was on clearance. Fireball Island was on clearance. All these games that go for a lot of money on the secondary market. You know, back when they first came out, they sold for the regular price for a while, and then for whatever reason, they just went on clearance.
Wow, it's crazy.
And then I just shoot myself in the foot for not picking that up. But that's one game that I've never played before, but I would like the opportunity. Now, didn't they say that Star Wars Risk was kind of like that?
It is. It has the it's very much toned down, and actually, I think I know a lot of people who said they like Star Wars Risk better. It is a lot more accessible. It's a simpler game. You don't have the one other thing I forgot to mention about Queen's Gambit's really cool. It's actually 3-dimensional. You build the castle and you play on all 3 levels. So there's a lot going on. There's tons of minis, and the rules are a little complex. There's a lot going on, and Star Wars Risk really scales that down. And like I said, I don't think it's necessarily a better game, but a lot more accessible, and you probably play it with a lot more people.
Right. Okay. Cool. So my number 39 has been coined the game to end friendships.
Know where you're going with this one.
It is Dark Moon.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Dark Moon. Now, if you don't believe me, just Tom Bassel and the gang of the Dice Tower did a live play with Stephen Barnacore from Stronghold Games and Rodney Smith, and Jason just freaks out on everybody. Like, scary freaks out. Everybody's pulling out their phones to watch him freak out. You know, it's really funny. But it's a game where there's a hidden traitor. You don't know who the traitor is that's trying to sabotage the moon, the colony that you're all working on. So one person's infected, or 2, depending on how many people are playing. And you're trying to complete missions to get off of this moon, while the person that's infected is trying to sabotage your base. And the game works, you're rolling dice behind a shield, and you're submitting dice to try to further to try to complete these missions, but no one really knows what you rolled. So you can be, as the infected player, you can be sabotaging it and just say that, well, you know, that's all I rolled. What else do you want me to do? So it's a really fun finger-pointing game, but people can really get upset with that game.
So that's what I definitely want to check out. And the reason I haven't is because my group's torn on it. because this is the one that's basically the scaled down version of Battlestar Galactica, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Now I have some people in my group. We're split pretty much right down the middle. Some of them, I should say, love BSG, and some of us aren't so high on it. I'm on that end because it's such a long game, and I feel like the game would be hard enough if there wasn't a traitor. And every time, I don't think I've ever played it where the traitor didn't just run away with it. And it's like, oh, and then this traitor sits there and brags like he did something, and I'm like, you just sat there. The game, what I mean? It's like the kid in third grade who has his fifth grade brother come beat you up and stands behind him and acts like he's beating you up. That's always the Cylon in Battlestar Galactica for me. But I want to play Dark Moon because I like all the mechanics in BSG, but it's just too long. I'd really love to try that scaled down version.
Yeah, it's really good. It takes about an hour, a little over an hour, but every time I pull it out, there's some people that get upset, but every time, and I think that it's leaned more to the traitor that wins, because there's very few games when I played that the people that weren't infected actually won the game. It's usually the traitor that wins the game. And I play with a group that has really great poker faces, and you just can't tell. You're throwing the wrong person in quarantine, and it's either they're got a straight face or they're really good actors, but it's hard. It's hard.
The worst for those games for me is just when you figure it out, who the person is, going to shadow a doubt, and everybody's pointing the finger at you, and
you're not infected.
Yeah, in my head, just that's when you really get it. That's something that could end friendships right there.
Right.
When you just, oh man, I rarely get really angry at board game night, but I've gotten really angry playing those kind of games. But this one I'm definitely gonna try out.
Right. So that was my number 39, Dark Moon.
Awesome. That puts us at number 38. And my number 38 is a game. It's kind of obscure in the fact that I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. It's an older game. I think it's had a few iterations. The latest one was put up by Fantasy Flight. Not sure if it's still in print. The name of the game is Colossal Arena. And this is a card game designed by Rainer Knizia. And basically the theme of the game is that you have this big battle royal going on between all these mythical creatures. You have ogres, and you have Amazons, and you have, I think, unicorns, and all these different things fighting. And basically what you do at the beginning of the game is you have them all laid out, and you play in 5 rounds. There's going to be 5 battles, and you're going to be betting on who you think is going to win. And the earlier you bet, the more you can only bet so many times, and the earlier bets are worth more points. But once you start betting, you got to find ways to keep that creature alive, because you start playing cards after the betting round to basically decide who wins. Everybody's going to have a chance to play it on cards, just with a number value on it for that creature. And the lowest at the end of the round, whoever has the lowest, is going to be eliminated from the game. And the only creatures that score are the last 3 standing. So you had to have bet on one of those 3 to score any points. So it's just a really fun, intense game. It looks really simple. You're just laying down cards. But it's the idea of when you're going to place your bet, and once you do, how you're going to protect the creatures that you bet on. And there's kind of some, you're making deals with other people because maybe you bet on the same creature, or maybe, you'll work together, keep your stuff alive, kill somebody else's. You may have 2 creatures you bet on. You got to decide which one you'd rather keep alive. So a lot of fun, a lot of willing and dealing, a lot of things, a lot of effects that change cards and values and things like that. So it's a really fun game that I really enjoy. Colossal Arena.
Cool. Who put that out?
The last version, which I'm not sure if it's still available or not, was Fantasy Flight. But I think that was maybe a reprint. It may have gone through, like I said, a couple different versions. Fantasy Flight did the latest one. And from what I understand, it's a game you play and you're just like, oh, I want there to be an expansion for this. But what was told to me was that they basically put all the expansions that were already out in this, and they kind of shut it down from there. So everything you get in the current game is all there's going to be, but there's still a lot in there. It's really a lot of fun.
Sure. Okay, cool. Okay, my number 38 is a game that no one really is talking about anymore, but it's Desperados of Dice Town. Now, in Desperados of Dice Town, it's kind of like a different take on the game Dice Town. Have you ever tried Dice Town?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Desperados of Dice Town, everybody has their 5 Desperados that they're all in jail, and throughout the course of the game, you're trying to get them out of jail. And when you get them out of jail, it invokes their special abilities. And the first person to successfully get all their people out of jail, the game will end, and whoever has the highest score or the highest coins will win the game. But it's a nice little filler to your gaming night. And like I said, it's not very many people are playing it, but that was my number 38, Desperados of Dicetown.
Now, does that share a lot of the same mechanics as Dicetown, or is that just
not at all? It's just from that same universe.
Okay, cool.
It doesn't share any. No, it's been out for about 3 or 4 years now.
I'll check that one out because that's one of my group. Like, it's on Dicetown's a lightish game that my gaming group enjoys. We get to play that every once in a while, so maybe we'll check that one out too.
Yeah, this is also a light game, and like I said, it plays in 15-20 minutes.
Cool. All right. Where are we at? Number 37?
Yeah.
Yeah, number 37. My number 37 is the first game from Flying Frog Productions on my list, and it's not going to be the last. This one is Dark Gothic, which is actually a deck builder that's based on their Touch of Evil game. And like I said before in our last episode, I didn't put end up with a lot of deck builders on my list, and I think this might be my highest ranked one. And it's a really fun game, really fun take on deck builders. My favorite thing about it is that you play characters from the original Touch of Evil game in the deck builder. And the currency, there's 3 currencies in the game. There's your wisdom or your intelligence, your fighting or your strength, and your cunning. And what you start out with, the cards you start out with are based on that character's stats. So unlike most deck building games, not everybody starts out with the same value currency. And everything in the game, everything you buy from the center row, there are villains you have to beat. They're all acquired through different combinations of these different currencies. So that really adds a really cool twist to it. It's a semi-co-op game, and really the semi-co-op doesn't shine until you add in the expansion. The semi-co-op aspect of it is there's a timer on it, and if you don't beat all 3 of the villains you have to fight by the time that timer runs out, then everybody's going to lose. In the original game, the base game, the timer didn't really tick off too much, but they put some stuff in the expansion to make that move a little faster. So it's a lot of fun. A really great, like I said, they do a great job of translating the original game into the deck builder. I think anybody can enjoy this. I've played this with people who have played the original and who haven't. They've all enjoyed it, but I think you get a little more out of it if you've played the original, because you see how they translate different characters, different villains, even different card effects from the big tabletop game to this little deck builder, and that adds a little something to it. But I think it's a lot of fun. That's Dark Gothic, my number 37.
Right, that one you said is by Flying Frog, right?
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's taken right from their Touch of Evil game. It's mostly recycled artwork from that game. Same characters, a lot of the same villains, like I said. Really good game.
Okay, my number 37 is another Western themed game. It's called Deadwood. Now, this is one that I did pick up on clearance, but I don't think it's going to be worth any much money. Deadwood by Fantasy Flight Games is a game where you're building a town, trying to get your town to the railroad station. So basically, you're building the town, and whoever makes it to the railroad station first gets a big bonus, and then the game will end. But as you're building the town, each piece of town has a special ability that will help you out throughout the game. I'm really surprised that this game really didn't take off as good as it did. It had a really good buzz when it first came out, but it just never took off. And I enjoy it. It's a great little game. And that's my number 37, called Deadwood.
Awesome. I want to ask you a question because I got a comment here, as Asdruval did. Is Desperados of Dicetown still available? Is that still in print?
It's not in print anymore, but like I know my local game store still has it on their shelf. But okay. I don't think that they're still making it, but I'm sure you can still find it brand new out there.
Sure, because I have Forrest Gump says he almost picked up Desperados of Dicetown a while back and never got it. So, Forrest, if you want to go try and find it, it might still be out there somewhere. All right, that was 37. We are on to number 36. And my number 36 game is Catacombs. If you're not familiar with Catacombs, it is a fantasy dexterity dungeon crawl where you play different traditional fantasy races and classes, but it's all flicking. It's all flicking little discs and moving them around a board, trying to hit the enemy before they hit you. It's a one versus many game. One player plays the villains, who are also represented by discs that flip around the board, and you're trying to, as the main players, work your way through different levels of the dungeon, beating all these creatures. And it's just a really cool game where they take the fantasy tropes, the different kinds of weapons they might use, or the different kinds of attacks, different kind of whatever these things might be, and translating them into dexterity flicking mechanics. The different ways you can flick things, how many times you can flick them, the other things that you might be able to use with those characters. And on the flip side, the villains are the same. All the different monsters and creatures, depending on what they're supposed to be, act very different on the board. So it's a great game. I'm talking about. I've played the first edition. Haven't played second edition yet. I don't know if I will. The artwork looks really good, but I'm really happy with the game as is. So maybe I'll get that second. But if I don't, I'll be completely happy with the first.
Okay. My number. What are we on? 36.
Yeah, 36.
Okay. What are you flipping?
My cards. I'm doing the Letterman. I got my games and the cards, and I'm done. I flip them out.
Well, if I flip my whole paper. I've got it all written down on one sheet of paper. So, okay. My 36 is a game based off of the world of publishing a newspaper. And I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to think. I see that penny press right behind your head over there. But this one, Extra Extra. Now, an Extra Extra, it's a worker placement game in which you are trying to, you have a board that you're trying to fill up with stories. Try not to leave any gaps in it. And you're working to each story. They have the game board is the process of which the newspaper goes through. There's the event that happens. The editor sends out the reporters. They come back. They lay it out. It goes to press. Maybe you might make some changes. But I've worked in the newspaper field for a lot of years, and this game really simulates what really happens day-to-day operations of an actual newspaper. So that's why I attached to it so quickly. I like it just a smidgen better than Penny Press. But that is my number 36, Extra Extra.
I thought it was hilarious. Those two games came out within like a month of each other.
I know.
It's like really.
Yeah, I think Penny Press came out first too.
Yeah, just barely though. I remember seeing them both come out. I think they were both at Origins that year. It was the first time I actually physically saw them both. But yeah, I like Penny Press, and it was a tough decision for me. I talked to some people, and I heard the people I talked to said they liked Penny Press better, so that's why I got that one. But I definitely would try them both. But it was still hard because I'm like, I don't need two newspaper games. I wish if they came out like a year apart or something like that, I'd probably get them both. But like, I'm not going to buy a stack of two newspaper games.
I think that Extra Extra has just a little bit more game to it than Penny Press does. Just a little bit more. Not much, though.
I'll try it out.
So that was my 36, Extra Extra.
Cool. My number 35 is a game called Parfum, or Parfum. I don't know how you pronounce it. But this is the kind of sequel to another game that I really like, and we may be talking about some other time. Fresco, which was a game where you're painting. You all play painters, and you're painting a big fresco. You're working together and trying to score the most points doing that. In this game, you're actually making perfume, and it sounds like a really silly theme, but it's a really fun game, and it uses some of the same mechanics as Fresco. The main one being, which one I really love, is that you decide turn order by how early you wake your workers up, and the earlier you wake them up, they can you'll get to be able to get more done, but they're happier if you let them sleep in a little bit. So I love that in Fresco, and I like it in this one too. Basically what you do is you collect your resources. You have tiles where you actually build perfume bottles that determine what resources you need, and then you have customer tiles that tell you which kind of perfumes they want to buy from you. And there's a pretty cool dice rolling element to collect your resources. So it's a fun game. It's simpler than Fresco. It's kind of, I think it's a good like intro Euro-ish game because there are dice, so it's definitely not a pure Euro. But my family plays it. I play it with my game group, so it's a very accessible game for a lot of different people. Really great looking game. Every piece, I went through and looked, every single piece of cardboard in this game, from the board itself to everything you use, is double-sided. There's print on both sides of every single piece of cardboard in this game. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. And some really nice, colorful dice to roll to, like I said, collect your resources. So it's a really fun game. Simple to learn, simple to play, but I get a lot out of it. That's Parfum, my number 35.
Yeah, that's a real manly game.
Yeah. That's the one. I mean, I'm a gamer. I'm a geek. I own it. But we were playing this one at my friend's house on his kitchen table, and his wife had friends over. His teenage daughter, had friends over. So we're literally sitting around the table whispering, "Okay, this is the kind of perfume I'm going to sell. Okay, what kind of perfume? Shh, quiet. Nobody. I mean, this is. We're never embarrassed of the games we play. And here's how bad it got. Somebody had the bright idea. Let's just pretend it's not perfume. Let's be wizards making potions. I'm like, oh, that's so much cooler than making perfume. So, but
right.
Despite the theme, it's a very fun game.
Yeah, it is. I played that a couple times. Somebody in my game group owns it, and it's a fun game. It is a fun game. Okay, my number 35 won the Spiels des Jahres. Last year or the year before, I can't remember, but it's Colt Express. Colt Express, I like it because you actually build little trains. You build the little trains that your playing pieces move on, and it's kind of like a Robo Rally-ish. You got to program your moves ahead of time, whether you're gonna stay on the top level, move to the bottom level, punch somebody, shoot somebody. So you're programming your cards, and sometimes your plans don't always work because other people go first or things change. So it's really fun. The object of the game is just to get the most money, and there's 2 expansions out for it. And with every expansion, it just gets, in my eyes, just it gets reinvented again with every expansion that they have. So it's a fun game. That's my number 35, Colt Express.
That's pretty good. Didn't they just come out with like a Back to the Future expansion or something for it?
I believe that you can actually get the Back to the Future car.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I think it's just a promo.
Oh, okay.
But I could be completely wrong on that.
All right, cool. That's another one I want to try. So I think my kids would love playing that one with, like you said, that building 3D element. Looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
definitely a family game.
Sure. Cool. All right, moving on to number 34. My number 34 game is Mission Red Planet. And I'm going with the second edition, the Fantasy Flight game. See it right behind me there. I never played the first edition, so I can't compare it. But I really like this one. It's a steampunk space travel game where you're in that era and you're using those those old-timey ships to launch into space and colonize Mars. You're setting up your little astronauts to take over different areas. So there's a worker placement aspect to it too, but there's also role selection where you all have the same deck of cards representing different characters, and you take turns deciding when you're going to launch them into space. And depending on who you use, they all have a different impact on the ships or the people on the ships or when the ships launch or how many people you have on the ships. So lots of different things that they can do. And it's funny, this is a game I feel like I shouldn't like because I'm really not a big fan of role selection games. I really don't like Citadels. I think Libertalia is kind of overrated, so I usually don't like those games. But for some reason, this one really hits home with me. I don't know if it's because the rules are so diverse and there's a lot of good decision making. One of my problems with rule selection games is a lot of times I'm stuck making a decision with a rule that either isn't very helpful or isn't very fun or both. But this one, I really like all the rules, and it's also the fact that it's not the whole game. That the rule selection is kind of like where you launch off from, literally, and then you move on to the area control. So there's two different factors there. So it's a lot of fun. Really great looking game. I don't know what the first edition looked like, but with this one, they definitely gave it the full Fantasy Flight treatment. Cool little astronaut miniatures for your color. There's a really neat timer for the game. It looks like a big clockwork dial. So just a great looking game, really fun. What I enjoy, Mission Red Planet.
Yeah, definitely. The first edition, the rule book was absolutely horrible. Like there was so much errata and so many questions on the rule book. So they definitely, with this edition, streamlined it.
Yeah,
really good. So that's one that I need to try. I played the original, but I have not tried the new version yet.
Yeah, if that's the only difference, if they just because it is a very well written, streamlined rule book. So definitely give it a shot.
Right. Okay, my number 34. You just mentioned right now that the game is overrated. You're reading my mind. My number 34 is Libertalia. It's a good game. You all have you start the game with the same set of cards. Everybody has the same set of cards, and when you play them is very important because they all go in separate order, and you have to get them down on the board just right so your combo can go off. It's one game that I never heard of until Will Wheaton did it on his tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the day after, tabletop airs, whatever game they're showcasing always seems you can't find it anywhere because everybody's picked it up. But I was lucky to get a copy of it, and I really like it. And it's a really not a gateway game, but just above a gateway game. It's a good next step for people. I like the theme. I like pirates. That's another theme that I like, and I think they did a pretty good job on it. And so that's my number 34, Libertalia.
That's a good game. I like that. No, I totally threw you under the bus there. I'm sorry. No, I'll say this: it's a good looking game. I really like the artwork on it. The components are really nice. I really enjoy that about it, and I don't hate it. I just, like I said, role selection games usually in general are just something that don't click with me. Okay. All right, my number 33, moving on to 33, is Sunrise City. And this is the game that when I first picked it up, literally first picked it up, the first thing I noticed was how heavy it is. It's a very sturdy, heavy game. Because what it is, the city building game where you have these really thick, chunky tiles that you use to build the city up. And it has this really cool, retro, like Art Deco look to it. And the components are great, and it's basically a game you play in 3 phases. You start out by laying down basically the foundation of the city you're going to build. Then you take turns bidding for the spaces where you're going to be allowed to build, and then you start laying down those thick tiles and building the city up. And so just a game with a lot of really cool decision making. Every decision you make impacts the next thing you have to do, and it's really cool just visually to watch the game stack up, to watch the board stack, and your city develop and build. And also one of the things I really like about it is that the scoring mechanisms are really neat. First of all, if you build in somebody else, the tiles are developed in such a way where if you build in somebody else's space, they may score some points from it. And also the scoring thing I like the most is that basically you have a 10-point track. Every time you score, every time you lap the track, you score a point. And if you can get directly on 10, if you can hit the very end of the track and stop there, you get 2 bonus points. So it's not who scores necessarily the most. It's how strategic you are in your scoring. So it's just a really fun game. There's some role drafting. You play a different role every turn, and that impacts the game in a certain way. So just a really fun game. I don't play a ton of city building games, but this is one I really like.
That's cool. What was that again?
Sunrise City.
Sunrise City. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just say it was a Kickstarter that came out a couple years ago, and it did really, like I said, you can tell just by the weight of the box how well funded it was, because it's a really well put together game.
Okay, cool. My number 33 is a game called Lords of Vegas. In Lords of Vegas, you are building hotels on the Strip, and they all start out as parking lots. And as the game progresses, you're bidding on buildings, and you're putting. It's actually a dice game, actually, where you actually put the dice in the middle of the building, which designate the strength of your building. So if you have a building with a die that says 3, that building is not really too strong, and somebody can come and take it over. But with a dice roll of 6 on the building, that building's really strong. So the object of the game is just try to link up these hotels as you're playing through the game, and the more you have merged together these other hotels, the more you merge together, the bigger the points are. It's one of the games that I like. It's one of the few like Vegas style games that I like. I mean, I do like the theme, the genre, but there's not too many games that I really enjoy with that theme, and this is one of them. And that's my number 33, Lords of Vegas.
I really enjoy that one. I really like the dice rolling mechanics on that one, and just the way you work together, kind of to build your. Even though you're working against each other, you can work together and kind of make deals. I've always really enjoyed that one. That's a good game. That's a good pick. My only problem with that is that with the money, and it's not that it's paper money. I can live with the paper money, but the fact that Elvis has the higher currency than Frank Sinatra. That I can't. Frank Sinatra should be number 1 for the Vegas currency. Other than that, it's a great game.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
All right, my number 32 is a co-op game called Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil, like I always want to say it like Red Skull in Captain America. Yggdrasil, but it's also very hard to spell. I don't know if I spelled it right. But anyway, this is a Norse mythology-themed co-op game where each player is going to play a Norse god. You'll play Thor, or Odin, or Set, or somebody like that, or Sif's her name. And you basically, everybody has their own little ability, and it's really cool. I don't think there's any written language in the game at all. It's all iconography. So you look at your powers as basically a symbol, and you look at the symbol on the board that matches that, and that tells you basically what you can do. And everybody has one simple ability, and what you're doing is you're fighting Loki and Hel and all the who's the big wolf? I forget the wolf's name, but all those traditional, famous Norse mythological evil creatures that Thor and Odin always fight. And the board itself is Yggdrasil. It's the tree that represents all the different realms, and every space on the board is one of the different realms where you can go and take an action. And it's very thematic, where like one of them is Valhalla, and any warrior tokens you've used before you can go get back from Valhalla, things like that. And the enemies are all moving on a track, and you have, I think, 5 enemies, five different creatures you're fighting. And when you have a deck of cards, and the deck of cards is made up of all these different enemies, so you never know who you're going to fight next. You flip a card, and they move down the track, and then they each do something different bad to the game. They screw up the board some way. And they're moving down this track, and the track is segmented. And the mechanic for how the game ends is if they all get to if all the villains get to the second segment, you lose. If 4 of the villains get to the third, you lose, all the way down to where if the one villain gets to the last segment, you lose. And if you get through the whole deck of cards before they move that far, then that's how you win. And it's a really fun game. It's a rare, to me, it's a true co-op in that everybody has to really put their heads together. It's a hard game to alpha game, Everybody's making decisions because there's so many different things you have to take care of. It's one of those co-ops where so many different things are on fire and you're trying to put them all out. So everybody, is trying to take care of something and trying to figure out how to push back the enemies, how to stop them, how to negate their powers when they happen, predict what's going to happen next. Just a lot of things going on. It's a relatively, despite everything I'm saying, it's a relatively simple game. Like I said, everything's based on iconography, and I've always had a lot of fun with it. And that's Yggdrasil, my number 32.
Yeah, that's one of those games where you're right about the alpha gamer problem. One of the few cooperative games where somebody really can just run the entire game, and that's the reason why I like that one a lot also.
Cool.
Okay, my number 32 was a hit TV show that I watched religiously. In fact, I think I've seen every episode like 3 times. After I got done with the entire series, I went back and watched it over again. It's Sons of Anarchy, Men of Mayhem. My number 32. This is a game by Gale Force 9, I believe. And in it, you're a motorcycle gang. Each one has their own special ability and their own starting things. They have really cool plastic playing pieces. They got like a little satchel that's supposed to be drugs. Oopsie. But they call it contraband. They got little guns, and they got little guys on motorcycles, and guys that are supposed to be recruits without a motorcycle. So basically, you're just moving from location to location, trying to get the resources from those locations to help you out in your deeds, I guess. The reason why I like the game and I like the show so much is that the fictional town of Charming, where they were supposed to be in, was really close to where I grew up, in between Lodi and San Francisco. And they always reference the county. They always reference the town. So I think they also shot a couple of scenes there, and I know that place. So it's really cool. I like I also like on the game itself where they actually use photos from the show. That's also another plus with me. They came out with one expansion, one rival gang, or maybe they came out with 2, but
I think there's 2.
I think maybe you're right. It just died down after that. I think they could have done so much more with that game.
Yeah.
It's still a game that it's very similar to my number 37, Deadwood. Very, very similar, but you're just actually using a motorcycle gang instead of, cowboys and Indians. But that was my number 32, Sons of Anarchy, Men of Mayhem.
That's one I really enjoyed too. I like the show and I like the game, and Gale Force 9 just knocks out of the park with those those TV themes. But the thing I really loved about Sons of Anarchy is that it carries the theme of the show so well that the first time I sat down and played it, we had 4 players. 2 of us watched the show, 2 of us didn't, and the ones who'd watched the show had an actual advantage over the ones who didn't, because if you remember on the show, like no one wanted to go to war. Like violence was the last resort. You always tried to negotiate. Always tried to talk your way out of it before you started shooting. And so that carried over the game. And the people who'd seen the show knew that. And so we took it easy. The guys who hadn't seen the show, they see guns and motorcycles. Let's come out blasting. And they really paid the price for that. They really blew their wad kind of early in the game. I just thought that was so awesome that the overall tone of the show played out in the board game. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's one I enjoyed a lot.
Cool. All right, my finish it up for the night on my end. My number 31 game is Roombound. This is a game just like my number 50 game, Rune Age, is set in the Descent universe, and this is the second edition that I'm referring. I think that's the current edition, right? The second edition.
Yeah, it's the current
third edition's coming out soon.
Right.
But yeah, this is Roombound second edition. And unlike Descent, where you're basically playing one adventure, Runebound takes you through a series of adventures. You play, I think, pretty much the same characters you have available in Descent are the ones you're going to be playing in Runebound. But you take them through a series of adventures obviously a little more abstract. You're not playing them out as in detail as you do in Descent, but you take them from one adventure to another. You're building them up, you're growing them, and it has that real RPG kind of feel as you develop your character, and you're preparing them basically to go to some kind of final challenge, defeat some final boss. And it's just a game I really enjoyed. It tells a great story. Just has like an epic, on like Lord of the Rings type of feel as you go through all these different quests. And what's really cool about it is, besides the base game, there are just so many expansions for this. You could play the desert world, you can play the jungle, you can play the frozen tundra, and but depending on what world you're playing in, the villains change, the threats change, the events change, and it really makes you feel like you're in that different region or that different land. So it's a really big, I don't know if I would say sandbox, but there's a lot to sink your teeth in with this game. Only downside is it can get a little long. I've played some really long games as people are trying to prepare for that last fight and make sure they can win it. But other than that, I think it's a great game. The third edition is coming up. And to be honest, there's so much in second edition that I haven't even touched yet that it may be a while before I pick that third one up. But that's my number 31, Roombound.
31, good one to run out the night. My number 31 is another Gale Force 9 game, which I completely think that they dropped the ball on. It is WWE Superstar Showdown. Now, I am a wrestling fan. I wouldn't say that I'm a wrestling super fan, but I do watch it on Monday nights. I do watch it on Tuesday nights. Whenever they come near, live show in town, I try to go. But this is a game where you don't even need to have any knowledge of the wrestling world to actually play this game successfully, because every wrestling game that they came out with in the past was just trivia games. So you actually had to watch the show to play the game and answer the questions correctly. So this is like the first true board game. It uses a rock, paper, scissors mechanic. So you're trying to outfox your opponent with 3 cards, whether you're punching high or striking low. But the board is actually, you're moving around the ring trying to get a tactical position. And some of these combos that you can make are really crazy. You can bounce off the ropes. You can throw them off the top rope. I mean, it's a really, really thought out game, a really enjoyable game. And like I said, you don't even need to be a fan of the show to able to enjoy the board game. But in a sense that the company dropped the ball is that you only get, I believe, 5 wrestlers in the box. And, how hard is it to, every 3 months just come out with a new wrestler with their, 20 cards or whatever number of cards? How easy could that be to keep the game, going, to keep it fresh? But they just didn't do any of that at all. I mean, they released it and then it just sat there. So it's a really unfortunate event that they had a really good property where they could really build on, and they just didn't. So that's why it's stuck at number 31, WWE Superstar Showdown.
That's one I've been on the fence with that one. That's one I thought about picking up, because I'm more of an old school wrestling fan. I really don't watch it as much now, but I used to watch it, back in the day. So I mean, I think some of the guys, I saw the characters, I don't remember who all they have, but some of those guys I don't even really recognize. So like you said, I'd love to see them come out with like an 80s and 90s expansion. You have all the old school guys. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's one you figure you could just expand, infinitely, because at the very least your fan base is going to be eating those up.
Right. And a lot of people that picked up the game, it wasn't just dominated by fans of wrestling, but it was also non-gamers that picked up the game. So you had, the best of both worlds here, and they just, didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, I wish they would have. I would have liked to have seen that go places, because, like I said, I do like that theme, and they don't make a lot of good wrestling games. So I'll check on your recommendations. Another one I'm gonna add to my list and try and check out, because, like I said, I've been on the fence, but definitely want to try that one out.
Yeah, and it's your son might like it too.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. Yeah, that's the other reason why I want to play it. Well, all right. Okay, that takes us down to the end of this this episode, our 40 through 31 top 50 games of all time. Asdruval, thanks so much for joining me. I'm having a great time. I hope you're having fun. Really loving hearing about all the games, your reasoning, and the games that you enjoy. So we got 30 more to go. We're close to halfway through, and we'll be continuing this soon. Before we go, anything you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to bring up to the conversation?
Just you can catch me on Board Game Blender every other Thursday, and I believe that there's a new episode coming out this Thursday. The theme of it is called "Cardboard Killed the Video Game Star." So it's board games based off of video games. It's going to be a really fun episode. And I mean, I really had a hard time trying to pick the game for this one because there was a lot of games in the 80s based off of the video game. So it was a really hard choice. But
awesome.
Hopefully you'll check me out every other Thursday. And I saw the comment you made for last episode.
Oh yeah.
Where you called me Jesse.
Yeah.
I didn't offend her too much though, so that was good.
That's good. Yeah, that was a lot of fun episode. If you haven't seen that, go back, watch the Halloween episode of Blender. Everybody played different segments, and it was pretty funny. Asdruval was he took over for Jesse the artsy robot, and it was pretty funny. So check that out. Great. All right, man. Well, we will do this again soon. Again, check out Asdruval's working on Restoration Games. Go to their website, check out for the newsletter, everything that they got going on. Hopefully, we'll have some news from them soon as to what games are going to be coming out, and we'll be letting you know about that. Definitely be following that with us. Check out Asdruval and Blender, like he said. Follow us on Twitter, Roll and Move Reviews. Like our Facebook page. Keep an eye on there. I'll announce soon when our next episode will be. Probably the next week or so. We'll be doing our top 30 through 21 games. But stick with us. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.